This is going to be such a strange take on funding your education as a student that's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, that you're going to want to watch this multiple times to make sure that you listen and understand what I'm trying to say. The fundamental thing that you're doing right now, it's kind of insane. It doesn't quite make sense. And it will never probably return anything for you in the future. Now, some people do an education because it is practical. Now, the earlier that you actually do this, so in your early 20s, for example, or in your teens, you can take the time to recuperate the cost of actually getting that education. Now, lots of us do educational pursuits much later on in life. I am a professor of business. I educate myself every single day. Believe it or not, my education doesn't stop. And I'm also funding the Reciprocity Project, which is a software that currently makes no money or makes very little money. And it is a passion that I've been doing for the last 7, almost 8 years now. And there's no financial return to it. So all of it, in the way that it's described, in the way that it's talked about in popular culture, is completely insane. It makes no sense to do these things that really do not have a financial return. And so by that definition, I want us to move forward and think about what you're actually doing and how it actually feels. So you have to do something for the simple fact that you are getting enjoyment out of it. And let's think about this, that a lot of education actually is that way. Even if you're doing something that is truly practical. I want my kids to do an AWS, an Amazon Web Services certification course. I think that there is some practicality to it. It's very practical. But at the same time, a lot of this, and why I actually want to do this, is just spend time with my kids and to spend time learning a pursuit that is just curious and that really doesn't make a lot of sense. There is practicality, but much of the material that I will learn doesn't really fit in with day-to-day life. Algebra is completely a frivolous thing. Nobody's going to need to know algebra in their day-to-day life. But the simple fact of learning this and going through it allows you to see the world slightly differently than what everybody else views the world as. And I want you to sort of think about this as you go about these pursuits and you do these things. It's not because of some sort of practical return. And I spend a great deal of time with my own students in my own classroom thinking about why people do these particular things. And we think that there is this return, right? Like I get a lot of students that are business school students, and the return that they want is instant. They're gonna make a bunch of money. And the truth is, it doesn't work like that. The truth is that when you actually do this particular action, you go and get an education, you don't know if it's actually gonna return anything. Now, the key thing that you have to think about, and to get you over this hump, is to think about that it's just simply for fun and enjoyment. But here's the thing that nets a return sometimes, is that you might have learned something from 30 years ago that sticks with you just a little bit. But then you recall it in your 60s, maybe in your 70s, and when you recall it, you think, wait a minute, I know how to pursue this thing, and I know how to do this thing because of this particular idea that I learned many, many years ago that I can't even know where I got that particular idea. And I might come up with an entrepreneurial pursuit that actually does net a return. Now, can we actually link that particular education to the return that you actually get? No, it's really hard. In fact, many economists, many business folks try to come up with that link and show that there actually is a link there. And it's extremely hard to show this particular link, and there's all sorts of debate about the returns on education and all of those kind of things. The truth is we can't really put that one-to-one relationship together. The truth is we have to simply go with the fact that there is enjoyment to do this. And it kind of changes you just a little bit. Just a little bit, not a lot, but it changes you a little bit so that you can see the world slightly differently. And we can't necessarily put our fingers on any of this stuff in terms of doing a financial return, but we can find the enjoyment out of it. So how do you actually fund? Now here comes the part that's interesting. How do you fund this? What do? You can't necessarily have the strict one-to-one relationship that you're going to get a return on anything that you actually do in the education that you're doing. So you have to pursue it as if you're kind of a little bit crazy, that you're doing something just for sheer joy. And you're not going to be able to explain this to anybody. And so what you're going to need to do, and even the people that, for school loans and things like that, you might be able to get some school loans that are there from banks, but I would be a little cautious. So many of you probably already have a job. And so you could do a lot of this stuff by looking for little sort of tweaks on what you're actually doing. A night course here, or a night course there, doing things where maybe your employer pays for it. You simply just have to ask. There's a negotiation process that happens. It's super awkward. I don't like asking either, and I feel like I am just the silliest person ever. But you have to have somebody that tells you need to ask. You need to be forced to ask. And sometimes they actually do offer these particular things. You could take a course here and a course there, so you can negotiate. Now, your goal through all of this is you're not going to accomplish it in the same amount of time as somebody that is dedicated within 4 years of getting something done. So your goal is, how do I keep this going and be a little bit crazy for a long time? It's probably going to take you 10 years. The goal of actually accomplishing this particular thing. Now, there's going to be some courses eventually that you probably have to allocate and dedicate your time directly. And you might have to actually take out a year or 2 years of working to accomplish this particular thing. Now, what I want you to do is, instead of thinking about this as a financial return, think of this as something that's going to change your soul. You're not going to see it. It might actually be not great of an experience. That's education. It's never really a great experience in the moment. So you need to turn this into something that you love and that you're passionate about, and that you're just irrationally makes no sense. Now, if you get to the point where you're done, you can hopefully turn this around and make it into something that's profitable and turn it into a return. And that's where you kind of have to think about the courses that you're taking, where there is some sort of relationship. Some of the courses, AWS, Amazon AWS certifications, yeah, there is a financial return probably, maybe. But for me, as a business professor that's quote unquote already made it, there's no return. It's not going to make a difference. But I'm going to get to spend some time with my kids. I'm going to get to do something that I'm just curious about. There's no reason for it. I love it. I love just learning the particular thing. That's where you have to sort of think about, how am I actually going to pursue this? So I'm just kind of goofy. Nobody else is going to understand it. They're going to say that, that's just their goofy thing. So you need to internalize that and say, yeah, I'm goofy. Yeah, I'm weird. I'm just going to do this just for the heck of it. And I'm going to repeat this until I actually get it done. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.